I don't mean to jump to a whole different topic, but we're getting late in this episode, and I really wanted to ask you this like early on, and I just totally forgot. But when I was listening to one of your episodes, it was right after you had COVID. It might have been your solo one. It might have been it might have been the last one. You talked about something that have been really diving into, which is you didn't talk about this, but you are one of the only people I know who got to try or got to use monoclonal antibodies. You know, you were sick and you used it, and I wanted you to explain your if you know anything about the suppression of that and your experiences with monoclonal antibodies and
Yeah, yeah,
it did help.
yeah. I'll talk about this. So, and I always like to be on the up and up about everything. I think we mentioned this, but I'm a fully vaccinated person. As I said before, I don't have a hesitation around that. I have a problem with how they sold it as being like 100%. It wasn't, but the data does still suggest that Omicron aside, which is kind of like a cold, it's different than the other strands. Yes, it is much more helpful in protection to be vaccinated. That said, you can still get it. And yeah, you can still die, right? Like if, I don't know, if you're overweight or something, right? So it's not a guarantee or anything like that. And so, in my opinion, we should be doing everything we can without any politics, which is never the case, to help prevent anything. I don't care if it's COVID or cancer. If you have shit that can treat it, you use it, right? I don't care what it is. And so if we hadn't politicized this whole thing, maybe people would just have the vaccine and not think it's killing them or anything or destroying their sperm count or whatever all this stuff is. And then also have the knowledge that they could still get COVID. And when they get COVID, have hospitals be set up to give anyone like fucking jelly beans at a coffee table monoclonal antibodies. So I got COVID. I went up to New York City and came back with COVID. It wasn't great. It was every bit as bad as the worst of the flu I've had. And it's a different kind. And you're sitting there and I have severe asthma, especially right now, because I live with a dog and I'm severely allergic to dogs. So I'm a little more at risk than I should be, even though I'm in shape. And so, I was banged up, but I never was like, oh, I'm going to die or whatever. But I had to call one of my doctors because I was in his office on the morning of when I later felt the symptoms that afternoon, unknowingly, obviously. So I had to be like, hey, sorry, I had COVID, it turns out. And so I was on the phone with him, and he was asking me, like, what I was feeling and all that. And I said, yeah, is there anything I could do? He said, well, you could get monoclonal antibodies. This guy's a big-time doctor, too. Like, he's somebody who's friends with my grandpa, so he's like, I only got to him because my grandpa's friends with him, put it that way. Like, he'd never see me. But I was like, fuck yeah. And by the way, this is part of the argument I make against the anti-vaccine people, just like as on the surface, not that it's efficacy and all that. I understand where they're coming from. But when they're like, this thing's going to kill me, I'm like, well, how many times have you been to an emergency room and you're in pain? You say, give me something, and they give it to you. Like, do you question it before they give it to you? No, you fucking stick it in. It could be made by, the devil himself. They're sticking it in your veins. Not to say that makes everything right, but it's another argument there. Because that's the same way I was with the monoclonal antibodies. I said to the doc, I'm like, oh, is this that shit Rogan took or whatever? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what do you think? He's like, fuck yeah, do it. I was like, okay. So I went and got it. And I got it on a Friday at 4:00. And they said, you need to give it at least 12 hours, but close to 18 to 24. You'll feel an effect. I'm telling you, 18 hours later, like a light, gone. 20 hours later, it's like after noon on Saturday, gone. No, I wanted to work out that night. I was like, wow. And I didn't have any expectations. I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to die, but, like, yeah, I guess I'll go do these things. But the way that I did it at a major hospital in Philadelphia, Jefferson, and was so sketchy, man. Like, I get there, they come out to pick you up. That part I guess I get, because like you have COVID, you're wearing a mask, they're trying to like keep it low key. They made it as sketchy as it could possibly be. They walked me through like a dungeon. It was like a construction area, like inside, like through all these places, which that may have just been a coincidence. I'll give them that. But then I go to the elevators and I go up to what I believe is normally a cancer ward. It's normally like, it's got the stations like when they do chemo. And I walk in there with another patient who I don't know. And then the nurse comes in and she starts going, and I don't care about this shit, but other people do. She starts going through our medical histories with us, like both right there, like the whole thing. And I'm like, God damn, if I were like a dick, I'd sue the fuck out of this place, right? Like, it's just weird. Like, this would never happen. It was like this whole like quiet thing. They gave you a little sheet and you left through the dungeon. And I get other buddies who don't have a high place doctor like that, who get COVID and they're banged up. And they're like, well, how do I ask the doctor about it? I'm like, don't ask your doctor. Give him a directive. I want my script for monoclonal antibodies. I need to take it by this afternoon. I'm like, it's sick that I have to like tell them, give your doctor a directive. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of doctors out there who are probably, many of them great doctors, who for whatever reason, it's been propagated to many of them that like, oh no, this shit, we don't want to press that. Which tells me, tinfoil hat on, who's it that made Monoclonal? I don't even remember what company made it. Like Regeneron or something. Someone made it. Some fucking pharma company made it. Another pharma company, right? Whoever they are didn't know enough people and didn't pay off enough people to compete with whatever, the guys who were getting to the vaccine could do, to have that be pushed as the main thing to do, right? But I'm not saying, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if it works on everyone. I don't know if I'm full of shit. All I can tell you is what I felt. I didn't think anything of it going in. It was a fucking Friday. I was sick. Oh, I'm going to get this shit. I left, right? Like, there was no like, oh my God, what am I going to do right now? I got it. And the next day I was all better and I was not good on Friday. So it is what it is. But yeah, in my opinion, if it can work, every fucking person who contracts COVID should have access to go get that immediately.